Why are Jungkook and Taehyung not seen together anymore? Here's the speculation. Has K-pop's most iconic bromance truly dimmed? In the ever-bright BTS universe, Jungkook and Taehyung, V, were once like two stars shining brightest, always side by side, laughing together, sharing hugs, and giving fans reason to believe that true friendship existed amidst the glitter of fame. But now, the silence between them is the main focus. No more accidental moments captured on camera, no more warm interactions on stage. All that remains is a big question mark. What really happened between them? This change didn't come suddenly, but it wasn't subtle enough to go unnoticed. Slowly but surely, their interactions started disappearing from the public radar. Loyal fans who have followed their journey for years began noticing strange patterns. Jungkook and Taehyung no longer stood next to each other during photo shoots, didn't mention each other in interviews, and even didn't seem to like each other's posts. The familiarity that once felt natural has now become a mere formality. Brief smiles, fleeting glances, or comments that feel too safe. Many speculations have emerged, and most revolve around two things: busyness and personal growth. Jungkook is at the peak of his solo career, performing at various global events and international collaborations. Taehyung, on the other hand, is busy with more artistic and experimental solo projects in music, visual arts, and even the world of fashion. They are growing in different directions, exploring the world in their own ways. And in this process, their closeness seems to have been tested. But could just a difference in career paths cause two best friends to drift apart like this? Some fans look deeper, noting that this change also coincided with the preparation for mandatory military service, which adds emotional pressure. Amidst this major transition in their lives, many artists withdraw to maintain mental stability. Perhaps, in an effort to become the best versions of themselves, Jungkook and Taehyung chose to give each other space, hoping that this distance is a form of maturity, not alienation. Interestingly, this change is not only felt in their actions, but also in their artistic expressions. When Jungkook sings songs themed around loss or loneliness, the look in his eyes implies more than just a stage performance. When Taehyung releases a portrait of himself staring blankly out of a window, fans feel as if he's talking silently to someone who's no longer by his side. The questions escalate when even their close circles change. Wooshik, one of Taehyung's closest friends, no longer actively interacts with Jungkook on social media. Peak Boy, who was once involved in Jungkook's projects, now seems more active in other circles. Their social environments seem to be divided, creating a kind of two worlds running parallel, but no longer intersecting. But behind all this speculation, there's one possibility that can't be ignored. They care too much. Sometimes when bonds are too deep, even small wounds can feel like big ones. Unresolved misunderstandings, unspoken words, or unmet expectations can create invisible walls. And instead of hurting each other, they might choose silence. Silence that's meaningful, but also full of sadness. Taehyung once said in an interview, "Sometimes, when you're very close to someone, it's the hardest to talk." Those words now sound like a clue that's been ignored all along. Maybe they both know that an honest conversation could open wounds, or perhaps heal them. But for now, silence seems easier than honesty. Does this mean their friendship is over? Not necessarily. Many fans believe this is just a phase in a complex relationship dynamic. The bond formed over years, through blood, sweat, and tears on the world stage, can't simply disappear. They may be on a journey to become the best versions of themselves, without burdening each other, without demanding to always be there. In some relationships, loving also means giving space. Behind the scenes, there might still be draft messages that haven't been sent. Phrases like, "Hyung, are you okay?" or "I miss you," that are only written in their minds, but never typed. So much they want to say, but somehow none of it is heard. Maybe because they're afraid there won't be an answer they expect. Maybe because they both feel lost as to where to start. But one thing is certain, the world hasn't given up on them. Armies around the world still hold out hope that one day, there will be a moment when Jungkook and Taehyung sit side by side again. Not for media, not for content, but for themselves. Maybe there will be a collaborative song suddenly released, or a candid photo accidentally spread. Maybe there will be a late-night call that finally gets answered, because in truth, love and friendship never truly disappear. They just change form. And in the silence that now envelopes these two big names, there's a hope that remains alive. That one day, not just the public, but they themselves will find their way back into laughter, back into warm embraces, back into the togetherness that once felt like home. And if that day comes, maybe they'll look at each other and say, "I never really left." However, before we get too caught up in the emotional narrative and speculation about the waning relationship between Jungkook and Taehyung, let's stop for a moment, take a deep breath, and ask ourselves this: is all of this real, or just a story created by the social media currents that are too quick to conclude? Currently, many of us consume information not from official sources or direct interviews, but from 15-second TikTok video snippets, Twitter or X threads, video edits filled with dramatic narratives on YouTube, or anonymous articles on forums that can't be verified. It all feels real, but it may not be true. We see two idols who rarely appear together and immediately conclude there's emotional distance. But do we really know what's happening behind the scenes? The question now is, are we observing or just reacting in a world driven by algorithms based on clicks, likes, and engagement? News like this is easily formed, even if there's actually no conflict at all. It could be that the infrequent interactions between Jungkook and Taehyung are simply the result of busy schedules, different solo projects, or even management team decisions. But when paired with sentimental narratives, it all feels like pieces of a puzzle that fit together. Even though there's actually no puzzle to assemble, have you ever wondered who first spread this rumor? And for what purpose? Often, a viral story doesn't start from facts, but from perception. Someone might notice they don't like each other's posts on Instagram, then create a narrative. Others add theories. Eventually, the story grows into a collective truth without any real evidence. We look at old videos, compare them to newer ones, and arrive at conclusions based more on our feelings of loss as fans than on objective facts. Are we seeking truth, or just satisfying our emotional need for drama? Let's admit it. Stories about strained relationships, changing friendships, and meaningful silences are captivating. It stirs our emotions, makes us feel like we're part of the story. But at the same time, we must ask, are we seeking information or entertainment? Is an article like this a form of genuine concern, or just part of the cycle of media sensationalism that relies solely on assumptions and emotions? It's important for us to realize that every piece of information is a product, and we, as consumers, must be able to choose. Will we be critical readers, or just passive enjoyers of drama that may never have actually existed? Some of the sources we referenced do come from popular media like TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and ARMY community forums. However, none of them are official confirmations from Jungkook, Taehyung, or Big Hit Entertainment. Without direct statements, all of this remains speculative. Isn't it possible that they're just busy? Or even that they're still close but choose to keep their privacy from the media spotlight? We must dare to question, do we believe something just because it's popular? Are our emotions too easily triggered by a storyline that feels beautiful but hasn't been proven? Are we becoming part of the spread of false narratives by continuously sharing and discussing them? We can't deny that social media provides incredible space for connection between artists and fans. But on the other hand, it also creates an illusion of closeness that often misleads. When we feel like we know everything about Jungkook and Taehyung because they used to laugh together, we forget that what we see is just a small part of their very complex lives. So, to all of you reading this, we want to invite you to pause and think. Are they really drifting apart? Or are we just too busy looking for evidence of a breakup? Do we truly care about their reality? Or are we just afraid of losing the fantasy that has made us comfortable? Is their silence a sign of separation? Or A, form of maturity in maintaining personal boundaries. The information circulating may feel convincing, touching, even soul-stirring. But as readers, as fans, and as part of an increasingly connected digital society, we have a responsibility to think critically. Not everything that touches the heart is truth. Not everything that feels real actually happened, and we're not saying this article is fact. We're not forcing you to believe it. Instead, we want to invite you to discuss, question, and evaluate, because ultimately, true truth is not just about what is said, but about how we respond to it. Thank you for your open mind and reflective heart. And now we want to hear from you. In your opinion, is this story real?